Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So today's video we're going to be looking at this Sentimentally Yours paper pack. This came free with one of the recent magazines. I think they've done a few of the magazines that's either had this same pad or they've been slightly different. I can't 100% remember, but this one did come free and it was sat on my desk and I thought we'd have a go at creating some cards with this pack. Lots of different papers in here and today we're going to be focusing on making some masculine cards from the papers and the sentiments, only bringing in a handful of different products. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this book apart, and the best way that I find to do that without ripping it is to simply tape the staples out and then just cut the pages, because obviously they're double pages, just to cut them in half so you've got a page for each, and then we're going to go through and decide which of the pages or which of the sides, sorry, that we actually want to use. I'm going to try my best to kind of break these down because you've got a couple of different themes in here. So you've got some masculine cards, you've got some more nautical themed cards, we have cards which is more based on like bees and things like that. We've got then flowers as well, so I'm just going to kind of break them down so they can be used together. We've got some sentiment pages in here as well, which again we can break down and put them with kind of the pages that make most amount of sense. In today's video we're going to be creating, I think it's 5 cards, 5 6x6 cards using, like I said, those masculine papers. So like I said, these come free with the magazines. You've got tons and tons of pages. This is a really thick pad. The only thing I would say just to be careful with is it isn't the thickest paper in the world. It's more got like a recycled texture to it, I think. What I would recommend, so in this video, I'm only going to be using my tape runner. I'm not using any liquid glue. I did do a little test. It was off screen, but where I put some Nuvo glue onto a piece and just kind of folded it over just to see what would happen. And you could see the glue through it. So I wouldn't recommend using glue with this. It seems to kind of ripple the paper in those areas again because it's a lot thinner. So if you've got double-sided tape, if you have got a tape runner, that will definitely work better for you. And on some of the toppers that I use, I am actually going to stick it down onto a piece of thicker scrap card that I've got, and that way you're going to create a stronger topper piece. So again, if you're if you're finding that it's quite thick, if you want to add dimension and things like that, maybe consider backing it first. A lot of my cards here are quite flat, again, because I'm not adding a ton of dimension. But like I said, in the areas where I'm backing it onto a thicker piece to begin with. So just some tips there when you're using sort of paper packs and pads like this. But we definitely want to get some of these papers used. And these are the masculine papers that I've picked out to use today. So we've got a couple of football themed ones. We've got the sort of moustaches with the walking stick, things like that. And then I picked out a couple of sort of grungy ones as well as then those 2 toppers. So we've got kind of blues, whites, sort of those greens there, and a little bit of brown, which is going to come in a little bit. Like I said at the start, I added in only a handful of products here. I'm going to show you a couple in this particular card here. So like I said, the cards are going to be 6x6. I've trimmed this piece down to 5 3/4 squared. And then I'm going to take, I think it was a 1-inch strip that I used from this kind of grungy page here, just so we've got then that sort of lining on the side. With then this football piece, I did then rip that left-hand side, like you can see, just to add a little bit of texture in there. And we're going to add a little bit of ink here as well. So these papers, you can ink on them, you can heat emboss on them, lots that you can do with them, but just remember they are, on the thinner side. So the stamp that I brought in, this is by Pretty Gret's Gritty. This is called Spot On, and I just wanted to add some extra spots to the back. The papers do have a little bit of that in there already, and I stamped that with Bundled Sage Distress ink, and then I'm just coming in around the edges with a little bit of Shabby Shutters. I've got just a handful of these distress ink pads in the 3x3 inch. So it's good just to kind of make use of these as well. And I'm just going around this extra piece a little bit as well. Again, it was just to sort of have a little experiment to see what we could really do with these papers. And it did kind of stand up well to, again, the stamping and the inking and things. But like I said, yeah, just remember it is on the thinner side. So we've got that down. I'm just working out what a sentiment I wanted to add on here, but there wasn't really one that came included that I kind of liked. So I decided to pull out my own ultimate big words sentiment, and we're just going for a simple happy birthday here. So this is literally a one layered card. There's nothing spectacular in terms of, you know, a dimension and things, but we've added other elements in this which make it more interesting. So you don't always need to be adding foam pads and things like that onto cards. You can create one layer cards that are more interesting by kind of layering up on the papers, so doing like flat layups, you know, again with ink blending or stamping directly onto the patterned papers. So I'm using the chunky words here. So we've got happy birthday again. I'm stamping that with some what did I use? Versafine Onyx black ink. And yeah, I'm just stamping that directly onto the paper. There is a link in the description box down below to my Etsy shop where you can purchase my 2 stamp sets that I have available. I've designed myself. You've got the ultimate big words and then the ultimate sentiment builder, and they both work wonderfully together. So like I said, I'm using my tape pen here. This is one of the Create and Craft tape pens. I think I do run out, and I'm actually now on my last one. I'm not 100% sure if I am going to restock these for myself or not. I'm not 100% sure. So that is basically the card finished. So again, a really quick and simple card. I do need to have some more masculine cards in my stash ready to use, but this is a way of using up some of these papers, sort of using up our stash, so it's not constantly just, you know, lying around and sort of adding more and more papers to our stash. So it's getting bigger and bigger. It's actually just trying to use them. So now we're going to create 2 more football cards. So we're going to take the 2 football pages. You've got the blue one and then the white one, which has got a smaller footballs on it. It's kind of working out the pieces that you want to put together. It's worth just taking a couple of minutes to work out sort of what colours you want to put together and what is going to work well together. What's great about this pack is you have some of these papers are have got patterns and things on it, and others one then are sort of plainer, or they might have a smaller amount of pattern on them, so you can use them together. So I'm going to actually create 2 cards with this that I'm cutting out now. And this is a similar, or I've done this sort of a card layout in previous videos when, like recently, I've been using up a lot more of my paper pads. So I cut this down to 6 by 6 inches, both of the papers. Then I cut those pieces down to 2-inch strips, and now I'm just going back to take off 1/4 inch off the length of these, so they will be 5 3/4 by 2 inches. And then just to, instead of cutting down that extra 1/4 inch that we need off the width of it, I'm simply just going to overlay that middle piece. And again, because they're quite thin papers, you wouldn't notice that I've done this. So then I've taken and changed the middle piece. So you can see this one, we've got the white outside pieces with this blue inside piece, and then the other card is going to be the opposite. So we want to make sure that we get this down nice and straight and make sure that our gaps are how we need it to be. And then we can add this centerpiece in here. Just I lined up the bottom and made sure then it was straight at the top, but because these papers aren't exactly the same, the colors aren't you know, you've got 2 different patterns here, 2 different size balls on here, and then you have the blue with the white. It does stand out really nicely, and this is fast becoming one of my favorite kind of card layouts to do, because you know you can put different papers together. So for these two cards, we're going to take some toppers from this topper sheet. So we've got the hexagon one that I'm going to trim out, and then I'm going to take one of those tags as well. And these are the two that I'm going to be backing onto a piece of card. I think it's like a 300 GSM, little bit of scrap card that I've got in my scrap box. And this is just going to, make this topper a lot thicker. So I've added tape runner completely to the back of this. Again, I wouldn't recommend using glue with these papers, just so you don't get any of that sort of rippling or anything like that. With the sentiments, you do have a small line going around, and you have a little bit of a bleed area with the colour as well, which is fantastic because it means that we can trim these down nicely. One of them, like so, we've got this hexagon and then this tag. We are going to turn these into more kind of tag toppers, but again, really simple in terms of the designs of the cards. You've got a little bit of pattern paper and you have just a topper here. So, take out the fact that this is a football themed card or a masculine card, or, what papers that we're using, what toppers we're using. You can use this card design for anything that you have at home. So with these kind of videos like this, obviously I'm using up what I've got in my stash, but don't forget, you can literally just look at the designs of the cards, the layouts of the cards, and you can use those in your own crafting with, your own projects. So I've just used a hole punch there. So there is a small circle in the top of these for you to be able to kind of turn them into tags. So I just used my hole punch and just punched those out. I'm using some Creative Expressions twine here in this nice kind of neutral color, which went nicely with the tags themselves, and I just popped them through the top and then tied a simple bow here. And these are really nice and strong now, like I said, because these are backed onto the 300 GSM. You can use even like a 170 or a 200. It doesn't have to be this thick, but certainly backing it onto something, if you want it to be sturdier, you can certainly back this onto something else. I'm going to add some foam dots onto the back of this, and then we're going to add this to the card. So again, really, really simple cards here. These are going to make a great pack. Potentially, I might sell these as a pack on my Etsy shop and eventually on my website. But they're also good then again to have masculine cards that are in your stash ready to go. So with the next one, we're going to go with this lovely green and cream sort of like mustache paper, and then we're going to bring in that green grungy paper again, just to have these cards and the colours kind of work together nicely. So with this one, we're going to do a little bit more inking and a little bit more ripping and things as well. So this background grungy paper, I'm going to cut this down to 5 3/4 inches square. This is going to be my backing piece. And then this piece here, I'm going to cut down to 5.5 inches square, but we're going to be tearing the edges. So it's going to end up being obviously a lot smaller than that. The paper, the good thing with this kind of paper is it is thin enough to rip it if that's the kind of style that you like doing. So that is great. It's going to just add something a little bit more interesting for you. I was trying to do something that maybe wasn't as traditional as kind of what I make. So again, with the inking and the ripping and things isn't normally things that I would do, but it's nice to try something a little bit different. And then so the inking around here, I use the I'm pretty sure this was the bundled sage, because the shabby shutters was a little bit brighter, so I did go with that slightly dark one, which is the bundled sage. And we're just literally blending that all around the edges, and you'll be able to see then when we put this back onto our backing paper sort of the difference, how much it kind of stands out more. And then you do have that nice green edge to it as well. So one of the sentiments best wishes, it had a mustache on here, so that was going to go perfectly with these papers. But what I wanted to do was get this cut out neatly. So I decided to take one of my stitched circle nesting dies, and I simply just die cut that. So again, because it's thinner paper, it's going to die cut so easily. And this was the perfect size that then added that extra little bit of detail with the stitched detailing around the edge. So again, I'm going in with my tape runner, and we're just going to add this onto our card base here. The reason I'm making a lot of square card bases at the moment is because that's what I've got most of. I do need to do a little bit of a restock on my card bases because we're making a lot of cards recently, like in, you know, even in the videos, we're making quite a few cards. So I do need to restock from there. So then I just use a tape runner again to add my ripped onto my background, and then some foam pads onto our sentiment. So that time with the sentiment, I didn't, or that topper, I didn't back it, and you could kind of notice a difference there, but hopefully it is going to be okay. Then I was just trying to work out what I wanted to do for my last card to kind of use up these pieces, and I had these scrap pieces. They were the right length, apart from one of them was 5.5 instead of 5 3/4. But I cut these down into 1-inch strips because we're going to use all of the papers together to create almost like a scrap piece. So cards like this are great if you've got these scrap pieces left over. You can create lots of cards, you know, using those pieces. They're absolutely not going to go to waste. And I will show you at the end sort of how much of the papers I had left, but I virtually had about half a sheet left over, which is great. We can use them on another set of cards. So I'm just going in, even with the 2 pieces that I didn't actually end up using, I still cut a strip from there. And these then worked perfectly. You can see I've got 6 strips, and again they're going to slightly overlap, so we can have those strips kind of be the same. So again, we're just going to line them next to each other. I'm just working out which pieces I want to put next to each other, and yeah, these are great if you have paper pads, and again, like I said, if you have all of the scraps, it's going to be perfect for that because all of those papers are designed to work together. These ones obviously I've put together, but if you've got paper pads, those pages will work together really well, and it's great for creating these kind of scrap cards with that. So you are using as much of your papers as possible. So the one thing I just want to say is I've got some new ideas of videos coming up very soon, but what I am looking to do is to use up a lot of my patterned papers. So at the moment you might see more videos of me using my paper pads, trying to use them up and creating more cards. So hopefully you guys like those kinds of videos. It's just nice to kind of use up the stash. I think I've got a bit much, and I have I've found quite a few of the Paper Boutique pads. I've done a few videos, you know how I love the Paper Boutique products, but I feel like I kind of need to destash some of my, or use up some of my patterned papers already, so I just don't end up with absolutely tons of papers. So that is my goal at the moment, and probably for the majority of November, is to try and use up as many of my paper pads as possible. So for this, we're going to back this top up, especially this one because it is quite large. So this one is just a longer happy birthday, perfect for a bigger card like this. I'm just going to trim down all of that white around the edge. And again, then we've got a really nice strong topper here. We're going to add some foam pads to the back of this, and then that is literally going to finish off these cards. So again, really simple cards. They probably took me about an hour or so to make, but then we've got 5 cards here ready to go. So even with a pad like this, you've got enough within the pads where you don't necessarily have to add anything else to your cards. You can use what's in the pad, and then all you need literally is just the paper pad after that. And you can see these are the pages that I had left. So here are my 5 finished cards. So even though we've got 2, which is roughly the same, this would make a good collection of cards if that's what you wanted. Like I said, they are on the thinner side. There's not tons of bulk to these cards, but it's just showing you lots of different ways of using these papers. So we've got bringing in extra products, we've got just using and doing a little bit of creative cutting there, and then a card using up all of our scraps. So it's great that we can kind of use this pad to create different kinds of cards depending on what you are in, the kind of cards that you're interested in making. So I'm sure that we will have more videos using more of these papers. If you like this video, if you got any sort of enjoyment, entertainment out of this video here, then please hit that like button. It does really help to support my channel. And if you aren't currently a subscriber to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I've got some really great videos coming up for you guys, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so it alerts you when I've uploaded my new video. That's going to be it for today's video. Thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.